Dankie Henry. Ons eerste gas in die ateljee vir hierdie Dinsdag en is Craig Wing. Hy is 'n vernoot by Future World International en ook craigwing.com en ook Wingnuts 123. Baie interessant. Welcome Craig.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Can you say that in Afrikaans?
Baie dankie, dis wonderlik om hier te wees.
Ja,
Hey, sê dit in Chinees Henry?
nie jou asjene en
Dis Suid-Koreaans asseblief. Just don't get
I
it.
tried.
I've tried. Craig, you call yourself a South African Chinese.
That's correct.
So just a bit of your background before we get to the business.
Sure. Look, so don't say that I am. It's one of those things. My background is, I was actually born in a place called Alberton, which is primarily an Afrikaans area. I went through schooling there, etc. I went to university and I studied engineering, electrical engineering. And then after that, I did my master's in usability engineering. Started a couple of businesses. Went off to the US and did my MBA over there. That was good fun in Boston. Moved across to California. Started a non-profit in clean tech. I had some challenges with work visas, unfortunately, which is the norm in the US. Came back to South Africa, where I was the head of small business marketing for Google South Africa. And then I started a company and joined Future World International, where I'm a futurist and I help companies understand what their potential future may be and how they can craft strategies around that.
So you basically summed it up now. So you've never actually been an engineer then, what you studied, but you went into business. So to sum it up, and one word I hear is futuristic or future.
Futurist, yeah.
A futurist. I read an article last week about a Google futurist that explained a couple of stuff where everything is going, and we're going to get to that later. So just basically, if I've got a tire business, can you help me?
Sure. Look, I mean, it's exactly one of those things, right? Irrespective of what business it is, it's really a question of saying, what is this business going to be in 5 or 10 years' time, right? And then crafting that business from the future backwards, not the other way around. The challenge with what a lot of businesses say is they say, well, we sell tires today. What do we sell tomorrow? The right way to do it is say, well, can we imagine a future in 5 years from now? So for argument's sake, 5 years from now, self-driving cars are going to be all the way around. You can monitor tire pressures. You can see what's going on. Is there going to be a need for tires? Without a doubt. But perhaps you want to get into monitoring of tires as well, so it's predictive as opposed to right now where it's reactive.
You see, I mean, that was a curveball question. Something like Nokia, we also know BlackBerry, and I'm calling them by name because, I mean, we could see in 10 years what happened. It's the strongest brands, and all of a sudden they're all in trouble. Do you think, what went wrong, you think?
Well, it's interesting. I actually read a quote 2 days ago, funny enough. At the press conference when Nokia was acquired by Microsoft, the CEO actually said, and these were his words, purported to have said, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we still lost. And it's an exceptionally powerful statement because what that means is businesses don't have to change, but they will be disrupted. And this is the long and short of it. So whether it's Nokia, whether it's BlackBerry, WhatsApp's cancelled support for them, whether you're any kind of business, you can't carry on business as usual. You need to try to disrupt your own business today. It's called the innovator's dilemma, right? But it's really a question of saying, how do I change my business? How do I understand that I have to change for the better because the world isn't going to wait for me? I need to drive that change.
That's fascinating. So now, Future World International, are you still based in SA? Because I went onto the website. It's a fantastic website. And all the people that's involved there, they're all experts. And I looked at some of the articles, the futuristic articles.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So what's your involvement with Future World International?
So I'm a partner. I'm a partner in Future World International. And those little things that you saw are called mind bullets. And the way we try to do it is writing news clips from the future. And it's incredible. So we'll say, pretend that you're in 2027 and let's talk about, so the news stamp would say the 17th of November, 2027, and the robots are now in control, or 50% of the world's workforce is mechanized. And it's really a press article as if you were in the future. It's incredibly powerful to get you thinking around that. The interesting thing about Future World is we're completely decentralized, right? So we do work wherever we are. We work how we want, and it's a model of how the world is working, right? So it's no fancy offices, it's not huge workforces, it's completely decentralized, and we can work virtually anywhere around the world.
The way you think, do you think Google changed that in your mind, that experience working for them? Because we know that they're a very progressive company.
100%.
Was it a change?
Yes, it was. It's really interesting. Before I joined Google, the toss-up was, do I work for Google or do I work for GE, right? And the toss-up in my mind was GE's leadership machine or Google's innovation machine. And I chose the latter because I do think that innovation and change-making and disruptive thinking is built into the culture of Google. All the way through from, their culture, which is something that I specialize in, helping companies understand how do you create the culture that supports their strategy, all the way through to saying, well, we have to innovate differently. We have to think about products from a customer's perspective. And you can see it. They were at one stage, the world's most valuable company. Innovation's in their blood.
Amazing. For our listeners, because the second part of the interview is just going to be on TV, where can they find you or mail you?
Sure. So you can find us. Our website is www.futureworld.org, and from there you can find all our details. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is @wingnuts, WINGNUTS123, and I'm happy to chat to anyone from there.
So bly ingeskakel op die groot ontbyt. Soos jy gehoor het, ons praat op televisie verder, maar jy kan as luisteraar en kyker ingeskakel bly vir jou sportverslag.
In baie gevalle, as 'n mens begin dink aan die toekoms, dan slaan 'n mens toe en jy raak so bietjie benoud, maar iemand wat nie bang is om futuristies te dink en ook besigheid op so 'n manier aan te pak nie, is Craig Wing, en hy's dan ook 'n vernoot van Future World International by ons in die ateljee. Craig, something that immediately caught my attention regarding your guys' website was the slogan that stated, "Is your business future-proof?" And that word future-proof, I would just like to stop and pause for a moment.
Sure.
If someone's listening and tuning in now and they say, okay, so I'm not sure whether my business is future-proof. How do I go about, how do I ensure that my business is indeed future-proof?
100%. Look, I think that's a great question. I think the first thing is really recognizing that you may not be. And I think that's the first part of awareness. The second thing is then to say, well, how do I think about the future? Something like only 5% of CEOs and company leaders think about the future strategically and what it means for their business. That's a tiny, tiny number. So first of all, as I say, it's think about the future, right? Secondly, read widely, all the way from Business Day to Tattoo Weekly to horse riding international. It's really a question of saying what's going on in the world all over the place, irrespective of what my business is. Think divergently, and then think about how that affects your business. GE's got a great slogan. It's called Imagineering, right? So imagine the future, imagine what it could be, and then engineer that future today.
Sure. Imagineering. So you've mentored over 1,000 students and launched over 50 companies, and it's 250 business plans. If you look at South Africa, what stood out? What excites you business-wise?
So it's interesting, South Africa, in South Africans as general, I think we've got a very much a hardy attitude. We come from a history of a lot of problems, right? And what's come out of that is people are very hardy and they have the ability to work really hard. Maybe not work hard, at least think about a process in terms of how we can move forward. I think there's a couple of challenges, though, with this thing, is the question of how we now, over the last 10, 20 years, have developed some kind of culture of entitlement. And I think that's a huge problem. I think entrepreneurs need to break out of that mindset specifically. No bank has to give you money. You're not entitled to success. No one has to buy your products. It's about hard work. But more importantly, any business, whether you're a startup or a real business, you need to be solving a real problem, right? And this is the fundamental problem that a lot of entrepreneurs see, is they say, well, I'm trying to solve this problem that's good for me, but no one else wants to solve it. So I think it's really a question of saying, test your market. Are we solving a real problem?
And then Clean Tech U, you also worked with university campuses. If you can give them advice with this case, because you mentioned now we've come from a difficult background. Sure. How do you see universities in the future? With all the chaos?
So it's interesting. Obviously, with what's going on right now, with fees must fall and the whole system right now, the challenge that I see isn't just a question of saying, well, our universities aren't capacitated, i.e. we have enough space. I think the entire education system is flawed to a big degree. Part of the problem is that we're teaching the wrong stuff. We're teaching off a model that's based off industrial age. The stuff that we're being taught isn't even relevant today. So you're teaching guys and kids a whole bunch of things that when they leave the world isn't even replicable. I look at something called MOOCs, massively online, open, collaborative courses. That's basically where the big universities around the world, Stanford, MIT, Oxford, they post their content online and you can learn for free, right? And what that says to me is the education itself isn't worth anything because these guys are giving it for free. It's the application of knowledge that you learn. I think that's something that universities need to think about very seriously, saying, well, how do we open up our courses and how do you transform to almost a free model where the knowledge is more important than the education itself?
Hou net jou gedagtes daar. Ek moet sê sin kostan help my ook nou glad nie. Maar ons luisteraars op pad terug. Jy is ingeskakel op die groot ontbyt. Jy het geluister na Lloyd Cele. Se dans met my en ons net so vinnig as jy net ingeskakel het. Jy's miskien op pad werk toe. Kom ons kyk hoe lyk die paaie.
Verkeer.
Op die stadium vertragings op die M1 Noord, dis by Parktown en Killarney, andersins ook 'n botsing op die M1 Noord en dit is by Southgate. Dan in Centurion verkeersligte vanoggend buite werking by Rooiskraalweg en Reintesoek by Hendrik Verwoerd en Rooiskraalweg en in Pretoria verkeersligte steeds buite werking by Mansfield en Lavender. Laaste maar nie die minste nie in Kaapstad 'n oponthoud van verkeer, dit op die N1 rigting stad by Jip de Jager, so ook by die R300 en Durbanweg en 'n oponthoud van verkeer by die N7 Suid by die N1 rigting stad. Indien jy weet van enige ander verkeersprobleme, hou ons op hoogte. Die SMS-lyn 49905 R1.50 SMS of tweet ons @grootfm #grootverkeer.
As jy net ingeskakel het, ons gesels met Craig Wing en hy is 'n futurist. As ek dit so kan opsom. I must tell you, I can interview you for 3 hours because everything you say just makes me realize that we must really, equip ourselves. I've done some research in terms of what to expect in future, and now we're not talking over 100 years. They're talking brain internet, how you can send stuff just by thinking of it to the cloud. Clothes made by 3D printers. Wearable mobile devices in 2025. And just to get to the university thing that you said, we're learning the wrong stuff. So if, in your opinion, where's our biggest problems?
As a country?
As a country. And maybe worldwide.
So I think saying the big thing is, as a country, I don't think we're geared correctly as a country to really think about the future, right? And what comes with that is actually the way that we've set up our policies, we set up our processes, etc. Another way of looking is to say, well, what is the culture of our country? Let me ask you this question. If it was a business, right, what is the aim of the business? What is the aim of South Africa? What is our aim as a country? We don't necessarily have one. When the great man Nelson Mandela was around, we were the rainbow nation. We embraced diversity. We were the gem of Africa. If I were to say to anyone that I stopped on the street today, what is South Africa's role in the world today? There is no answer. And because of which we don't have something to walk towards. So I think that's the first problem. I think globally the other challenges, and obviously South Africa fits in that context, one of the challenges globally that we stand is we're still building things off an industrial age. We're not building things for a different world that we are in today. You think about population swells, we think about youth demographics, we think about natural resource constraints, global warming, 3D printers. What do we do and how do we embrace technology like 3D printers, like mining, like SpaceX colonizing Mars? We aren't geared, and I don't think we have necessarily the right leaders in place to say we need to think about this as a system, but more importantly, what is the aim? What do we need to do as whatever entity?
I want you as president. A more personal question: why were you tear gassed in Turkey? How did that happen?
So that's an interesting story. I was in Turkey for a conference. And essentially the way Turkey goes is when I travel to a country, I like to do the local stuff. So I like to go local restaurants, take local transport, etc. And I was staying in Turkey, and the bus stop, between the bus stop and the train station is about a 100-meter walk.
Square.
Close enough. We actually went there, but it was pretty close. It's about a 100-meter walk, and it's very close to a soccer stadium. And they were phenomenal. It's great fun in Budapest, etc. But it was between two local rivals. And what actually happened out there is a normal kind of thing. I think guys got too rowdy, and I happened to be caught in between the crowds and got tear gassed for my efforts.
No, luckily it was not political. Just again, the details. If people want to book you for conferences, even if I was a businessman now,
sure.
Even in construction, I'll phone you within the hour, just the way you think, and I think what you guys are doing. So where can we reach you?
So you can find our details at www.futureworld.org, right? And from there you can find all our different information. Or you can just get hold of me on Twitter. That's Wingnuts, WINGNUTS 123.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you.
It was amazing. And if we don't pick up our game, Henry, ek en jy, gaan robotte ons werk doen. Hulle gaan net sit en uitsaai. So ons moet shape up. Wat's shape up in Afrikaans? Ons leer Afrikaans ook vandag.
Ons moet in tip-top kondisie wees.
Ons moet nou begin sokkies optrek en in tip-top uitsaai kondisie begin raak. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Jy is geskakel op die Groot Ontbyt, dis Groot FM 90.5. Jy het geluister Demi Lovato met Neon Lights en ongelooflike lekker onderhoud gehad oor die toekoms. Maar onthou, jy kan deel wees van ons toekoms vanoggend om deel te neem in die sosiale media vraag. Ons sal net weer dit vir jou deurgee, maar jy kan ingeskakel bly vir jou nuus, weer en verkeer en dit is volgende.